Alrighty, and welcome back to the channel, everyone. Glad you all could make it out. Today I'm going to be covering Clive, who is part of this Tomb of the Fallen. He's an alternative to the Restless Spirit 1, the other being Sheila. So I'm going to start off this video first by going into the mechanics of Clive himself, and then I will hop over to my guidebook and start looking at some of the team there and kind of explain the strategy in order to clear this. So first off, the enemy deals physical damage. So if you have characters that are a little bit tankier versus physical damage, that can help you a lot. For these though, you don't specifically need a tank unless you're super struggling to survive, but it's generally better to have 2 to 3 DPS or then 2 to 3 supports for low power clears. Also, the enemy has a strong magic defense, so the boss overall damage I think is less than Sheila just because you don't have to worry about plague. So it's similar teams to the Sheila comps, but there's more variance in this one. Opening up his kit here, his self-defense, 2 instances of physical damage to enemies in a cone ahead. He's immune to controls, attack speed down, and damage taken up effects. The second one throws a jagged stone which deals physical damage in a cone. The farther the enemy is from Clive, the greater the damage. So I tested this whether my characters were closer or farther, and the damage increase didn't seem that much, nor did the damage on the skill seem that much. So it's pretty you could kind of ignore the skill. It didn't really affect too much in any of my tests. Other one, so his hypertension is a little bit more difficult when you're at low BP trying to break the shield phase, basically. On Sheila it's a little bit easier just because you could spam bounce attacks off of it, but for Clive you need a good burst character. So there are a couple of characters that are good at doing that, but basically if you are struggling to break this to the shield, then you need to increase your damage output, whether that's through a buffer or a different damage carry. If you are low BP and you are unable to clear the third shield, that's fine as long as you're able to clear the second shield on, because from the third shields, basically third, fourth, and fifth shields, you have time to break the shields basically. So that isn't quite as much of a worry. The next one is the Unwavering Oath. This is when he enters into his second phase. He'll start charging his moonlit sword. That will do the massive physical damage. So this can be a one-shot mechanic if your team isn't strong enough to defeat the sword. So in the first phase you want to burst him down as quickly as possible. In the second phase you want to try to get some energy cycling in order to have energy to break that sword specifically. Then lastly, the Lord's Call. So this is the mechanic that is the most worrisome. So when you're low BP and you don't have a good clear for the mob summons and the elites, this is actually going to use the most amount of time in the phases. So if you are struggling with damage and you don't have a good mob clear, this is actually going to slow down your progress, and you theoretically have the damage to be able to clear him, but you don't have the burst capacity in the mob phase. And so I'll talk about this. In this, you can't damage Clive at all, so it's a stopgate for your progress in it. So here we are at the guidebook. So in this one, Van is actually one of the hard carries in this mode, just because he's physical damage dealer, he's tanky enough to actually serve as your frontline tank, and so the position kind of helps on this. Again, Limine is probably the best one here as far as taking out all of the mob summons, as well as the Moonlit Sword in the second phase. So between Limine and Del Carlo, you have a pretty good chance of being able to take out the sword. There's positioning for it. Van is basically your frontline tank, and then Akka is usually the squishiest character out of this team, and so I actually put Starry-Eyed on my Akka. But if you are struggling to survive, just move your Starry-Eyed and then put her behind whichever character is your squishiest or the character that is dying the most. The ult order is actually going to be this, where you do Akka, Doll, Van when Van starts ulting, and then you use Starry-Eyed to trigger the blood. The goal is to burst down Clive and get him into his second phase as soon as possible, which is when he does his first of the wolf summons. So that's the goal for this type of rotation. For alternate characters and comps, pretty much all of your main damage dealers are going to be this column right here. So that's going to be your Lamia, that's going to be your T Haiti, that's going to be your Tybalt Cessia, that's going to be your T Noah Cessia. Again, if you're struggling to survive and you don't have damage output, then you could try using an alternate healer or an alternate to acapella. So you would drop acapella and basically you would throw in somebody like a Yig, or you could even throw in somebody like a Seth, works here as well. It's not quite as good as Sheila just because you're trying to get the alt stacks, and unfortunately you can't run double Aeona. Also I would say double Aeona, but again, Adina could work. Seth can also work as an alt for the healers. If you need a tank, Bella is likely to be the best one, as you would likely run this type of comp, but you would place acapella with a Bella. But again, this running no tank is actually ideal in this type of strategy. That's talking about the positions, the types of characters, and then the ult order. It varies slightly for these types of comps just because Cessia is uber squishy, and so you would rotate things around. Again, you just put Starry-Eyed behind whoever is your squishiest. Just reading through some of the notes here real quick. Acapella gives good damage boost. Doll is a good damage as well, especially in the summons phase, and so she's just a good sub DPS in order to get that. So you burst them down like I talked about, and then there's talking about here for rotation in the ults when you're in the second phase, and then for the Blood Moon phase. So again, like this one, you want to be expected to clear at about level 140. The first time I did a full clear on Clive, I was about 136, and then Sheila I was about 138 the following day. So to play it should be about 140-ish. Depends on your characters and how you have them built, and so on and so forth. So we're gonna go ahead and hop in and just look at the team, the strategy, and I'll just explain things a little bit more as we continue to move on here. So again, this is how I have them set up right here, as my Akka has a physical defense of 2600, whatever Aeona. Limine actually has my lowest right here, 22, so I could swap basically like this, and that could be fine as well. Van has a 34, Dull has a 33, so again, they're all fairly squishy, and so just whatever you need to do to rotate it for your team to stay alive, do that instead. If you are struggling to survive, then you throw in Aeona, but you would swap it basically like this, and so you would do Doll first, then you would do Aeona basically to have your team take a couple of hits, so you could get shield, and then you heal up all of the hits you've taken. Basically, that'll help space out your health a little bit more. So we'll go just like how I had it in the setup, in the team comp, and then I'll just show you basically how a rotation would run. So I'm running it at 1x speed just so you could see it. Basically, that's going to be his slams. That's the slash that he does. Again, he's just hitting right close at the beginning, and then he's sliding through. So if you space out your characters, you could throw them to one side or the other, and it'll kind of spread out the damage. So as far as the rotation, typically you want to rotate and use acapella within 3 seconds of using this. So if you wanted to burst him down quickly, then at the beginning you could even just start with an Van ult, but the ideal rotation would be get to 6 energy, use acapella, and then wait 3 seconds, and then use Van, and then from there then you would hit up and do Starry-Eyed Aeona to get the blood going. So I'm just waiting, okay, hitting that up just to get the damage reduction. I'm going to pop him now that the third buff is popping, and then I'm just going to move everybody forward and bump them up. And then that's about it for the rotation. So of note is when you're starting to enter in, once you clear the 5th bar, that's when you enter into the second phase. So I cleared that super quick there. Maybe I'll just go like this and pause just so you could see. Normally you would need to do that rotation 2, maybe 3 times in order to get into the second phase. When you enter the second phase here, Clive's going to fade away and disappear. These 2 wolves are going to be summoned, and then basically you need to kill them, else you won't be able to progress into fighting Clive again. You could kill these trash mob summons as many as you want, but until you kill these elites, you can't progress into the next stage. So they're just going to keep here. and keep summoning more of these trash mobs, they will not go more than 10 of them at a time. So between all of them, there won't be more than 10 wolves, so you could keep that in mind. So for this rotation, if Acapella is channeling when you TP up with your Aeona, Acapella is going to get left behind, and she's going to get killed by these mobs. So that's one of the reasons why I typically would put Acapella, or my Starry Eyed Aeona, behind my Acapella. That's to keep her alive in this phase in case the teleport fails. So just keep that in mind. So generally what you would do is if you have Van, and if you time it for the rotation, try to get Van to be starting to ult just as you're entering the Blood Moon phase, just as the second phase starts. That's if you're able to do that. Van is pretty decent at killing these wolves, and then he'll kill some of these wolves at the beginning and while you get your rotation set up, and then from there you're going to move forward and basically get all of your team clumped up on these elite summons, because elite summons don't move, but these trash mob summons do. So basically I'm just going to drop one ult here, that's just to get these guys killed. Then I'm going to get Akka going, or Van going rather, sorry, that's to get the rotation going. I'm going to TP forward, so if you don't have those three characters, that's fine. Then you would just wait a rotation and you would use a Eliminate ult instead of a Van ult, and then you would smash these wolves just to basically kill them so you don't take any damage, and wait until you have SE Aeona to be able to teleport your characters up. So from there, I'm going to teleport my characters forward. Usually your doll would not kill them like that. It's just enough to be able to kill them. And then from there you're going to wait and you're going to Eliminate ult or Lamia ult or Tybalt ult, whatever your damage dealers are, and you're going to smash this. If you're using Eliminate, which is again the best one for the for this mode, you would kill all of the elites, and then from there you would just start waiting and saving up your blood energy. You don't want to enter into the beginning of the second phase with no Blood Moon energy. That's very important. So the first phase you want to burst and use all of your energy, and then in the second phase you want to save your energy. You want to try to be entering in at around 6 to 8 Blood Moon energy if at all possible. So from here, Clive is entering into his phase. He'll drop the Moon Sword, and then you're going to just Doll ult, or if you have Eliminate ult, then you do Eliminate ult. If Doll isn't enough, then you follow up if you're using a second DPS. So that's going to be your Cessia, that's going to be your T-Hades, that's going to be your Tybalt, whatever. If you're using Tybalt and you target the sword, just target it back further right here, because it's going to travel through the sword and then aim towards Clive. So just keep that in mind if you're trying to use Tybalt in this team. So normally I would do like whatever Doll, and then I would do Eliminate ult right there. And then if needed, then I would throw in an Acapella, and then I would get SE Aeona as soon as I can, just to get the Blood Moon rotation going. And then I'm just going to keep this going, just hold my energy basically until I get another rotation, let Van keep doing his damage basically once he's in the rotation, and then once he clears the bar, then he'll start going into the next Moon Sword phase. It's usually timed. He'll do I think 4 or 5 swings, then he'll enter into the Blood Moon phase, and then again it's just the same thing. You want to save Van ult for this phase, and so you can burst this. If you're unable to burst it, then go ahead and throw up a SE Aeona shield before this burst, and then you'll be able to survive his burst, basically, if you're unable to defeat that. So here I'll hold this just as an example so you can see the Moonlit Sword. And then you see how it did a big burst. It almost wiped out my team. So before that does damage, basically all you do is just pop a SE Aeona here. So now on this one, Akka is channeling, so I'm actually going to hold my my summons here. I'm going to doll these guys to hold them down, and then Akka's finished, and then I'm going to TP up basically. On this final health bar, oftentimes your rotation is difficult because you've used everything to try to kill that final bar there, and so instead of TPing up, what you would do is you would just stay down here, just heal and burst with Eliminate, or burst with your Lamia and Doll first, and then from there TP up. It just depends on what your rotation is, but that'll help you to stay alive and to basically kill these. And basically the focus is, because the elites aren't doing as much damage as these trash mobs are going to do in this final summon here, so you would just try to kill just the summons instead of the elites here. So I'll pop this one more time. I'll do this just so you can see we get into the final phase here, or the final bar anyways. So it's kind of sad I lost my, I think I lost 2 characters here, yeah. I just lost 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop this, kill this final elite. Alright, and then again, I would try to build up energy, just waiting here to go into this final phase. Try to auto attack them if at all possible. So I'm just going to wait until 9. If I can't survive, then I'll go ahead and pop this. Wait a little bit, and then I'll just pop my van. And then I'm just going to build up my energy for this final moon sword. So he's entering in final moon sword, and then I'm just going to pop all of my ults, just try to burst it down. And then boom, that's pretty much how you would do a clear. So there's a couple of things on here. It is difficult to get the timing down depending on your rotation, but once you practice it a couple of times, then you should have no problems doing it. The other interesting thing is that Clive actually has about 600k less health than Sheila does. So Clive is actually much easier in that instance, where he was at like 1.6 million. And Sheila's actually at like 2.1, almost 2.2 million. So, fun fact, hopefully that helps explain the mechanics, how to do the rotation, the team comps, positioning, ult orders, and so on and so forth. So, I will look forward to seeing you all in the next video.